When the facts bend reality, this is beyond plausible.
In a sealed, sterile chamber, a single heartbeat echoed, each pulse a fracture spreading through fragile glass. The air tasted of ozone and sterile decay, thick enough to choke on. Doctors watched, helpless, as monitors displayed rhythms no human body should produce. Every thump in the chest vibrated through the room, a tangible, wrong pressure against the skin. Whispers passed between the suited figures, voices muffled but laced with a dread that tightened the throat. This wasn't illness. It was a slow, audible shattering from within. And in that room, one truth became inescapable. Some hearts aren't meant to keep beating. For 72 agonizing hours, that was Eli Thompson's reality. His own blood was crystallizing, a slow, creeping petrification within his veins. This was no fiction. It was a waking, tangible nightmare of clinical sterility and primal horror. This is the chilling, unsolved medical mystery of Eli Thompson. And by the end of this story, you will question everything you think you know about your own body. His survival hinged on a desperate, last-ditch treatment so radical, it had only been theorized in nightmares. The frantic, irregular beeping of the EKG monitor filled the sterile room, a frantic metronome counting down his final moments. In the stark light, the doctor's gloved hand held a jagged, crimson crystal that seemed to pulse with a faint inner warmth. This is what they found inside him. In the beginning, there was only sun-drenched innocence. Eli, 14 and lanky, wrestled with his dog in that Austin yard, his laughter catching on the humid air. Every moment of that afternoon was ordinary, preserved in that flickering home video like a fossil in amber. Mark and Lisa watched from the porch, their smiles a fragile mask over the dread they couldn't yet name. Eli Thompson was every bit the Texas boy, baseball mitts, pixelated adventures, and a trail of discarded socks marking his passage. He was a picture of health, a whirlwind of energy that filled the house with noise and motion. But in the quiet moments, a strange metallic scent would sometimes linger in the air he left behind. Until the Tuesday after Labor Day, the footage becomes grainy, slows, Eli's smile flickers, then falters completely. It started with a headache, not unusual. Then, a deep, bone-aching fatigue settled over him. By dusk, Lisa noticed the first unsettling shift. He began complaining of a prickling sensation in his hands and feet. Lisa, he said it felt like tiny shards of sand were in his shoes. Mark, a pragmatic engineer, dismissed the crawling sensation beneath his skin as a viral cramp. The hospital staff gave him fluids and Tylenol, then settled him into bed for the night. That was their last normal night. In Eli's bedroom, the door hung slightly ajar, revealing only darkness within. Then, a sharp, sudden gasp of pain tore through the quiet. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and something metallic, like old copper. At Austin Memorial Hospital, the ER's sterile brightness offered chaotic refuge. The hospital corridor hummed with controlled panic as medical staff moved with urgent purpose, their faces etched with grim focus. On the gurney, Eli writhed against the restraints, his face contorted into a silent scream that never reached his lips. What began as a prickling sensation had transformed into searing, needle-like pain that shot up his limbs with every frantic heartbeat. His fingertips and toes had taken on a strange, dusky purple hue, the color of something long dead, something that should not be. In the stark fluorescence of the ER, his vitals spiraled into chaos. His blood pressure plunged, a terrifying freefall towards zero. Yet, his heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic, runaway drumbeat. The air grew thick with the sterile scent of ozone and a deeper, coppery dread. Anjali Kapoor stared at the medical charts, her brow furrowed in disbelief. It was as if his circulatory system was seizing up. His blood had grown too thick to pump, yet the lab results told a contradictory horror. Severe anemia. He was bleeding out from a source we couldn't find. The MRI revealed the first clue. Tiny, bizarre occlusions like spiderwebs woven through Eli's vascular network. Thousands of microscopic dams had silently formed in his bloodstream, choking the flow to his extremities. Then, during a routine blood draw, a junior resident's hands went still. The observation that followed would shatter any remaining sense of medical certainty. The syringe refused to withdraw, its plunger jammed in place. Through the catheter's clear tubing, they saw not fluid, but a viscous obsidian sludge that shimmered unnaturally under the fluorescent lights. A sharp, chemical odor like ozone and decay cut through the sterile air. The glittering sludge seemed to pulse faintly, a silent, alien rhythm that froze them where they stood. Under the lens, Eli's blood revealed a grotesque transformation. Instead of floating cells, we saw rigid, crimson structures interlocking like a lethal crystal lattice. His hemoglobin, the molecule that carries life-giving oxygen, was crystallizing spontaneously. The truth was undeniable and horrifying in its geometric precision. His blood crystallized into sand, then hardened into jagged stone within his veins. Each minute brought fresh agony as glass-like shards shredded his vessels from within, causing silent, internal hemorrhaging. His organs began to suffocate, starved of oxygen by the crystalline invasion that choked his circulatory system. This wasn't just death. It was a biological impossibility unfolding in terrifying slow motion. A death sentence etched in glass, Lysa. They admitted they had no protocol, no treatment. They named it spontaneous hemoglobin crystallization, a clinical label for a nightmare they'd never faced. Eli lies unconscious, tethered to a ventilator. His skin is a horrifying mosaic of deep purple contusions and a sickly, waxy pallor. The monitors scream with erratic, frantic beeps, the crimson numbers flashing warnings no one can decipher. Hour 48. Eli was fading fast, his body rejecting every treatment. Dialysis had failed completely, leaving his veins heavy and sluggish. Plasma exchange offered no relief, the metallic scent of the procedure still clinging to the air. The crystals were multiplying faster than they could be diluted, a silent invasion beneath his skin. His kidneys failed, and his heart began to falter, laboring against the gritty, congealing sludge in its chambers. The medical team had exhausted every option, their sterile environment now thick with the scent of antiseptic and the metallic tang of desperation. A profound stillness settled over the room, broken only by the faint, rhythmic drip of an IV and the oppressive weight of impending doom. That's when after frantic global consultations, Kapoor returned with an unthinkable proposal. In a hushed hospital conference room, tension hung thick in the sterilized air. He drew a radical schematic, his hand trembling slightly as the marker squeaked. Dr. Kapoor's voice dropped to a grave whisper. We cannot stop the crystallization. Our only chance was to outrun it. We drained his entire circulatory system, replacing every drop with a synthetic oxygen carrier, a fluorocarbon-based emulsion. It wasn't blood anymore. The substance coursing through his veins was a liquid polymer, a cold, alien plastic. The metallic scent of the emulsion mixed with the sterile, ozone-tinged air of the lab. We had traded his humanity for a chance. Now, we waited in the heavy quiet, listening for the thing we were running from. It could carry oxygen without hemoglobin. We drained the glass and filled him with temporary, artificial life. Mark, you want to replace my son's blood with machine fluid? The procedure was a desperate Hail Mary, a total exchange transfusion on an unprecedented scale, monstrous in its risks. The threats loomed: brain clots, total immune collapse, fatal allergic reaction. But Eli had only minutes left, not hours. In the sterile room, milky, opaque blood bags hung suspended like alien fruit. The bypass machine whirred to life with a mechanical gasp, its rhythm unnatural. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone and the low, persistent hum of machinery. For 3 hours, they walked a razor's edge, clad in full barrier gear as the machine hummed with a low, mechanical drone. One bag of Eli's crystallizing blood drained out, replaced by the synthetic oxygel pumped in. A slow, deliberate exchange of life and artificial substitute. As the last of Eli's own blood left his body, they collected the output in a clear canister, the sterile air thick with the scent of ozone and iron. And there, settling at the bottom, something that shouldn't exist. At the pit's base, a layer of razor-edged crimson crystals glittered like pulverized cathedral glass, capturing every glimmer of light. This was the evidence. The beautiful, monstrous glass that had formed within his very veins. 2 weeks later, Eli sat weakened but alive in a hospital chair, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling the air. He stared at his palms, slowly flexing his fingers as if testing a fragile, unfamiliar truth. Eli Thompson survived, but he was forever changed. The oxygel had bought his bone marrow 72 critical hours, just enough time to reset itself and stop producing the defective hemoglobin that crystallized like glass. Months of grueling rehabilitation lay ahead, the sterile air thick with the scent of antiseptic and the faint, metallic tang of old blood. The nerve damage in his extremities was likely permanent, a cold, unfeeling numbness that served as a constant, chilling reminder of what he had endured. Yet the enigma persists. Why? Genetic sequencing revealed no known mutations. The answer remained sealed away with that impossible specimen. Something in that blood defied all medical understanding. No poison, no catalyst. It was a 1 in billions aberration, a spectral glitch in his genetic code that manifested, unleashed chaos, and then simply dissolved. We watch Eli from behind, framed by his window, as he stares at the sun-drenched Texas street outside. He slowly raises a hand, watching the light filter through his fingers like a tangible substance. Eli carries a truth no other soul can perceive: that the vital current flowing within us all, which we accept without question, is not always fluid. For him, that current solidified into a confinement of his own creation. His breath hitched as the monitor's steady beep grew stronger, merging with a low, mournful wind. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and old stone, as if the room itself was petrifying. That reliable pulse became a chilling reminder, not of life, but of a slow, internal fossilization. So next time you feel your own heartbeat, remember Eli and wonder. Imagine, just once, the ocean's pulse hardening into immutable rock. A cold, briny dampness hung in the air, thick with the scent of petrified salt. The only sound was a deep, grinding groan from the Earth's core, as if the world itself were straining under this new law. Then, absolute stillness.
Curious? Subscribe and step through the next anomaly.